did get a text message from one of our members saying he was not feeling well and he wasn't sure he was going to make it. So,
Is that Archie?
yes.
Oh,
Yes, I know. Just within the last 2 minutes. So I'm hoping that he'll feel well enough to jump on for a while. Bubbly water. That stomach bug's going around. It's because we have no immune system right now. All right. So I will go ahead and call our meeting to order. It's 6:01. Welcome to everybody who is joining us this evening. We'll take a minute and those of us on the council will introduce ourselves. My name is Suzy Sanchez Beg and there's Archie, awesome. And I help run a small nonprofit here in the International District that deals with people who are in recovery and homelessness. We also do a lot of outreach in the community, including working with tiny homes, including working with some community service projects with APD, and yeah, several other things. So I've been on the council for about 3 years-ish, and I live here in the Southeast.
Good evening. My name is Kathleen Burke. Welcome, everyone. Esteemed guests, all, thank you for being here with us tonight. My name is Kathleen Burke. I am the vice chair of this council. I have been serving here for approximately 4 years. And my day job is that I'm an independent consultant. I'm currently fulfilling a contract with the League of Women Voters, where I'm working on the topic of redistricting for the state of New Mexico. I live in the La Mesa community area, and I've lived here for 15 years. Glad to be here with you tonight. Thank you. Ron?
my name is Ron Hobkiewicz. I have been a council member since its inception. Been working with the development of the CASA Community Court-Approved Settlement Agreement for the Community Policing Council. Felt it was very important to serve and work with the police department given the conditions that we were experiencing at the time. I've served as chair up until this past year, and I live in the Nob Hill district and area, and I am glad to be here this evening.
Good evening, everybody. Archie, J. Stephen Archuleta. I've been on the council. I don't know how long it's been. I lost track after a while. Retired military member, currently working at the VA hospital as employment specialist in the healthcare for homeless veterans. Welcome, everybody. Looking forward to tonight's meeting and looking forward to a full CPC one of these weeks. Hopefully we get there. Thanks.
Soon, very soon. So I just wanted to take a minute to remind everybody that we will hold questions in the chats until it's time to either have public comment or questions for speakers. And please be mindful and polite, which I'm sure everybody will be. And I don't know if any of the other members want to, yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before we go on, I just would like to make an announcement to the community members who are here. One of the very important things we do as a community policing council is we send recommendations to APD. And this is one of the main conduits for getting information from you, the community, to the chief, particularly at APD. And so I just want to encourage anyone here tonight, if you are interested in making an official recommendation to APD, we are very happy to take those. we're happy to help you get it written and get it formatted. Just reach out to one of us or reach out to us at our email address, which is in the chat, and we'll be happy to get that going. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Let's see, where are we at? So we do have a couple of guests that will be speaking this evening. Our first guest speaker is Sean Waite with APD Compliance and Oversight, and he will be speaking to making comments and schooling us, hopefully, about the latest independent monitors report that came out. And so thank you for coming.
Thank you. Would you like me to go ahead and start? Okay. If somebody can allow me to share screen, that would get me going.
Okay, you're on, sir.
Thank you, sir. So Kelly, can I confirm you can see the PowerPoint there?
Bright and clear, yes.
Okay, sir. So this is a presentation of the current status of the court-approved settlement agreement. As the chairwoman said, my name is Sean Waite. I'm currently the acting commander for compliance and oversight. Our division acts basically as the conduit between the department and the independent monitor and Department of Justice. So as the chairwoman said, the newest IMR or independent monitor report was published back at the very end of April, beginning of May. And it just shows our status. So the second slide here shows the members of the monitor team. The independent monitor is Jim Ginger, Dr. Jim Ginger, and his monitoring team. Each associate monitor has a section of the CASA that they are responsible for. We have had an addition recently. Mr. Rick Naselis was brought on as the principal liaison between the monitor team and the Internal Affairs Professional Standards Division, which is managed by Commander Zach Cottrell. So here's two links. If you need me to, Madam Chairwoman, I could put these in the chat, but these are where documents are found online related to the settlement agreement. And there's also a copy of the independent monitor's report if you haven't seen that. So again, I could copy these later and put them in a chat for everyone. These are the sections of the CASA that we're evaluated on. So some of the things you're probably aware of: use of force obviously is a big one, specialized units, crisis intervention, policies and training, misconduct, complaint, investigations and adjudication, staffing, management, and supervision, recruitment, selection and promotions, officer assistance and support, and community engagement. The CASA is a fairly large document. If you've read it, you recognize that. It's several hundred pages. There's 276 measurable paragraphs. So although you'll see there that there are 344 paragraphs, some of those are not what we consider measurable. So the measurable paragraphs, there are 3 levels of compliance. The first level is primary compliance. So this means that we've developed a policy on it and that policy has been pushed out to the department. Secondary compliance is that we have trained on that policy or that procedure. And operational compliance is that we've demonstrated our ability to accomplish that policy or that procedure in daily operations. So this is just a bar graph showing our compliance rates over time. You'll look back and see that as far back as IMR 8, we have been 100% in primary compliance, and that has not changed over time. You will see that we rose in secondary compliance up through IMR 11, and that we have had 2 consecutive drops in secondary compliance since that time. So this most recent IMR 13, we went from 92%, approximately 92% compliance to 82% compliance in secondary. And then again, if you look at operational compliance, which is the red bar, you'll see that in IMR 8, we were at 58%, and we rose slightly but steadily up through IMR 11, and then that we have had a reduction in compliance in both IMR 12 and IMR 13. So again, from 100% to 100% in primary, from 91% to 82% in secondary, and there's some rounding there, so that's why I called it 10%. And then from operational, from 64% to 59% in IMR 13. So here's the main sections of the CASA and how those fare currently. So if you look at the top left, that's use of force. The decrease in compliance occurred in 29 paragraphs. So you can see that that's over 10% of the paragraphs in general. And so that obviously leads to a decrease in compliance overall. We did have some improvement in a couple paragraphs, but overall the net was down. The other one where we saw, or one of the other ones we saw net down, was crisis intervention. So there were 22 paragraphs that stayed where they were, and we had 5 paragraphs that decreased in compliance. Specialized units and policy and training stayed relatively the same. Specialized units actually improved a little bit. Policy and training decreased slightly. These 4 were basically net zero. So the one on the top left, complaints, investigations, and adjudication, we have a decrease of 1, net 1. Same thing in staffing, management, supervision. Recruitment, selection, promotions, officer assistants were the same. And finally, community engagement and compliance assessment and enforcement, they were relatively stable. Community engagement had a little bit of improvement and a little bit of decrease, and so the net was down 2 on that, but relatively the same. So those are the main headings and the compliance rates. Madam Chairwoman, I'm not sure if you received a copy of this. I could email a copy of this to Kelly if he hasn't provided it for you, so that you can have it for your members if you'd like. And that's all. I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. Do we have questions from the council?
This is Ron Hogdog. I just have a question. So in these instances of IMR 13, where there's been a decrease in some of these paragraphs, do you then implement a program that will address the issues of where there's been a decline, number of paragraphs with decreased compliance? Is that part of your effort in meeting the compliance requirements?
Yes, sir. So we kind of approach it on 2 fronts. We have our internal efforts that are done with the goal of achieving compliance, but as you'll see in the IMR, there are also recommendations produced by the monitor team to get us in compliance. So we take both those things into account, and some of them we know where we failed and we've made efforts to improve it. So for example, many of the paragraphs that decreased in compliance were related to training, use of force training or annual training requirements. You'll recall that we had a little flu going on the last year. It was difficult to impossible for many of the training events to take place. The Academy attempted to come up with an alternate schedule, but ultimately was not able to produce training according to the requirements of the CASA. And so that, as a result, really hit us hard on training. So we are actively taking steps to rectify that. For example, there's several iterations of use of force training. We are currently training the entire department on the most recent iteration, referred broadly within the department as Tier 4. That Tier 4 training was supposed to occur last year, but it did not. And the reason we couldn't conceptualize how to do it was it requires a lot of hands-on activity related to defensive tactics, handcuffing, things like that. And so since don't hold me to the number, but there's somewhere around 50% of the department is now vaccinated, we've been able to hold that at the reality-based training center, and we will, it's a 2-day course. We will have finished day 1 here within the next month. So that's just an example of some of the steps we've taken. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
So when the officers, excuse me, my cat wants to be on here too. So when the officers are doing this training, is that something they do on department time? Is that something they do as overtime? Do we have fewer officers on the streets at that time? How does that impact what we see?
That's a good question, and maybe Commander Yara could address that. My understanding is it's done on department time, and that we schedule adjust patrol officers to account for that. But Commander Yara would have to, I think he'd be better off weighing in on how that exactly looks from the field.
Yeah, Suzy. So when we have any sort of training with the department, whether it's compliance based with the DOJ or just our regular annual training, we do definitely have to do it on we do our best to adjust their schedule to ensure that we eliminate overtime, but we end up having to backfill their spots when they're absent for training. So sometimes they just fill their own spot and they claim the overtime based on the training portion of it.
So again, does that mean we have fewer officers out on the streets?
Yes.
Okay. Which would also account for why there are longer wait times when people have calls to 242 cops and 911.
Yes, especially as of recent, we had to catch up with a lot of the training. So in the past, I want to say 3 months, we had over, I want to say 3 different training schedules that we had to meet. With that said, that means that we're going to sergeants, the immediate supervisors are responsible for spreading that training out and make sure everybody attends to meet that standard. And usually it's 1 officer a day, but that doesn't take into account the officers that are sick or even on vacation. So yeah, it's gonna response times will rise, but they had to put out all this, and I think we're done by the end of this month. So
okay, thank you. Go ahead, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. This is for Commander Waite. There's a lot of information here for us to take in, and particularly for the community to take in a short period, including all this wonderful graphics you've made for us. Thank you. Because there has been quite a bit of negative press on the current state of reform, I'm wondering if I could just ask you to tell us in your own words where you think APD needs to see the most improvement, and where APD has fallen short primarily. Just in your own words, for the sake of all of us, please.
So I think the numbers show us that the most loss or the most failure has been in use of force investigations. And so what is happening is that we have a lot of use of force cases coming in, and that's not my section, so I'm not gonna offer to speak as an expert on it, but we have a lot of use of force cases coming in, and there's a lot of effort put into turning those around within the requirements. So that's a piece of it. The other piece, like I said, is training based, although it doesn't show up as a decrease in compliance under the training category, which is in the bottom right there. It does affect the use of force paragraphs. And so that's where we've seen the greatest loss has been in those, what is broadly termed use of force. And it's interesting if you look at the CASA, because there are many paragraphs that touch on use of force. And so that could be related to body camera usage, or it could be related to like I've said, the force investigations, which are separated into 3 levels. So that's the place that we really are trying to improve compliance in the next reporting period.
Thank you, Commander Waite. And just one other question for you, and you might or might not know this, and it's okay either way. Does the area of the United States Department of Justice, which covers police reform and the area with whom we have the consent decree, excuse me, is that the Human Rights Division of the DOJ?
Civil rights.
Civil Rights Division. Yeah. Okay.
And it's a subset under civil rights. So the civil division has several different departments underneath it, and this is one that deals specifically with these sorts of issues.
And you say it's human rights or civil rights in the end?
Civil rights.
Civil rights. Thank you, Commander.
Any other questions from the council?
I was just wondering, sir, what is the level of compliance that we need in order to be in compliance, and how long do we have to maintain that before the consent decree is gone?
Yeah, so basically, not 95% on most things is considered a passing grade. So if you look through the monitor report and they refer to doing auditing or sampling, they're looking at a 95% rate. And in order to be I guess, done with the consent decree, we have to achieve operational compliance across the board for 2 years. So that's typically what has to happen. And I'll answer the question in the chat here in a second. You know, what you would have to see is that our compliance, thank you, Commander. What you have to see is our compliance rate in all 3 levels would essentially be at 100% was what you would need to see. So that means we have to develop a policy, we have to train on that policy or policies, and we have to show operational compliance department-wide for 2 years. Now, we have made the case in the past, although we have not put it into effect, but we have started to talk about the possibility of self-monitoring some of the paragraphs that have been in compliance for a long time. So, for example, if you look at the top right here, specialized units, I think is in operational compliance across the board. So, as long as they are operational, then, and they have been for some period of time, then we would petition the court to move those into our audit purview. We have an active audit team that does monthly audits on different things, and we feel like that audit team could be used for our own, essentially our own monitoring. So that would allow us to focus on some of these areas that really need extra work, and then the independent monitor would not have to spend as much time on these other things that are in continued compliance.
Thank you.
And I see Commander Yara is diligently answering questions as they come up in the chat. Thank you. I know with your 2 fingers.
Maybe good to hear a few of these out loud. There are some good ones.
Yes, yes, there are some really good ones. Let's see. Yeah, you'd think with my glasses I could read the letters that small.
Maybe we can bring Jessica Sarabi on.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, let me see if I can find her.
So I'll just answer Jessica's question. So the court-approved settlement agreement is a settlement that was agreed to by Judge Browning, a federal court judge here at the U.S. District Court. So it would be unusual, very unusual for Judge Browning to say, okay, we're going to release you from the CASA without meeting the standards that were set in the CASA. So that's probably not very likely. The CASA compliance standards are set by DOJ, Main Justice, and with the assistance of the monitor. And the overall, it's a court agreement. And so the overall standards basically are established by the judge. So. Jessica, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome, thank you. One of the questions that I had, because we all see the news all the time, 24/7, and then some. So we are not the only city in the United States that is under this CASA agreement. Like there are lots and lots of cities, if I am understanding this correct, that have been on them for many, many years. And hopefully we're learning from the things that they're not doing well and the things that they are doing well. Is that something that's monitored or looked at, I'm assuming, by APD?
Yeah, so we interact regularly with other like-sized, what we refer to as CASA cities. So we have a very good relationship with New Orleans and Baltimore. Those are 2 of the cities that have been recently monitored. The departments are about the same size as ours relatively. And our folks are in regular communication with those departments when they have questions that they feel they're not able to get around. So some of the cities, for example, like Los Angeles has been under consent decree, may still be under consent decree, but they're like an own city unto themselves. They're so big. So what they have the ability to do may not relate to what we have the ability to do. Just today, I was talking to a couple of my employees, and they had spoken with some folks in Seattle about some different ideas, since Seattle was also a settlement city. So yes, we do interact with those cities.
And Suzy, when it comes to updating like standard operating procedures or whatnot, we are always looking for that best practice, who's doing what better. And we don't always implement it, but we look at it to see if it's going to work for us and if it falls within any of our paragraphs. And obviously, if it pertains to CASA, that has to go through a set of stages before, and the monitors have to obviously approve that. So we do always look out to see who's doing what better. And obviously, we always want to be at that level. So.
Thank you.
I saw Vicky chime in or put something in the chat about the monitor versus training and COVID. And Vicky, I think the issue was that the monitor had requested an alternative training plan. And I just think that training plan never satisfactorily got to the monitor and was discussed. So unfortunately, we never came up with an alternative to do the training that was required. So they weren't just going to give us a free pass because of COVID, but we didn't do what we need to do on our side to provide them with an alternative.
Yes, Kathleen?
Commander Waite, is Raymond Leal still on the commander's team, or excuse me, on the monitors team?
That name doesn't sound familiar to me.
Thank you. And I know that Jessica Sarabia had quite a few questions. Jessica, was there something else that you'd like to ask while you're on?
Yes, you know, it wasn't clear. One second, let me get my dog in the house. One second. Yeah. So it wasn't clear. So you're, Mr. Waite is a part of an independent monitoring that I understood as independent, whereas you're in fact an employee of APD, you're a sworn officer, correct?
Yes, ma'am. I'm the acting commander for compliance and oversight.
Okay, got it. So,
I was just presenting an overview of the monitor's report.
okay. An additional question I have is, I've been seeing the billboards regarding crime matters more. I understand that, correct me if I'm wrong, as an independent action by APD union to try and affect CASA, to take CASA out. I wasn't clear what the objective was for that. Is that something you could speak to, or is that something I have to ask union reps?
I don't know enough about it to address it. So, Commander, are you familiar with that?
And it's somewhere in that line, Jessica, because of the effects of, you know, our changes are changing how we handle misconduct. Misconduct as far as, and I've sat down with Suzy several times to talk about this when it comes to progressive disciplinary action. I don't think we've updated that SOP for forever, probably since 2016, I want to say, but don't quote me on that. But it affects us when it comes to progressive. They bunch everything into misconduct. So you can be acting malicious and you could get disciplined. And then on the other hand, you could forget to say stop police. They bunch those two together and they progress everything depending on the level of sanctions. So that's kind of where the union's going with that. And they're trying to show the effects on the officers as to, you know, how it's affecting them, and the matter of that. They're trying to say that the department, that's what they're prioritizing to get into compliance with the DOJ. So that's kind of where that campaign is going with that.
And I will say, Commander, to add to that the discipline policy, I think, has gone out to the parties for review. So it's in the process of being updated. I know the commander for professional standards has been working really hard on that, and so it's close to being out as a new policy.
And when we do those policies, especially for the DOJ, we write them, we reach out to best practices, we try and do our best to write a good policy that's going to not only satisfy the DOJ, but also assist with officers. And then it goes through the city attorneys reviews it, and then it goes to the monitors review it. And then if it gets kicked back, we have to make the changes that are needed to meet that compliance. And then it goes back through the whole process, and then it goes to the policy review board to ensure that they speak up on their behalf, and they give us any sort of insight that or knowledge that they would like to put into that SOP. And then it goes out to a 15-day commentary to the whole department who comments on it to make changes to see if there's any issues with it. And then it goes back to the policy review board. So it's a long process.
SOP is what?
Standard operating procedure.
Okay. The other question I had is in regards to the trainings. Is it very specific in the CASA that specific training has to be done? Like you mentioned, the taser and these other weapons-based trainings, any trainings specified specifically towards racial equity or cultural humility, something more in the in the works of how a police officer approaches citizens versus weapons training? Anything specific around those?
Not that I can remember. Sean, you could probably chime in about it. I don't remember anything about that.
Well, I mean, the only thing I can think of would be like crisis intervention training that everybody undergoes. And then some officers undergo additional crisis intervention training. Bias per se was not one of the things that we were cited for in the settlement agreement. So other than general best practices around cultural sensitivity, et cetera, I don't recall a specific training about that.
Thank you. Council, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
I was going to
Commander.
say, sorry, ma'am. I was going to say that all the training plans are just like Commander Yara described with policies. All the training plans, all the lesson plans are approved by Department of Justice. So nothing gets by them before we present it.
Thank you. Council Member Archuleta, did you have a question? I saw your hand was up.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I was just that when Commander Yada talked about that bunching of all the incidences under use of force, is that happening in the other areas that are under consent as well that we're in contact with?
Sorry, did you say bunching, Jeff? I couldn't really understand you.
Yeah, you said it's all bunched in together. So, I mean, I think I was hearing something that they're all bunched in with the use of force.
But
Is that happening in the other cities that are under consent decree?
Are you talking about the training, Jeff?
No, basically how do I want to say it?
The discipline.
The disciplinary, yeah, when it's all bunched together, they're not separate. You know, it's all bunched together.
Oh,
and it's causing more
okay.
training to happen.
I don't know, to be honest with you, Jeff. That would be something that we'd have to ask the Internal Affairs Professional Standards Commander, because he's the one who has to write that. I don't have anything to do with that SOP. They assign us SOPs, and that's usually what we look at, and we reach out to those other departments that under that settlement decree. So I wouldn't have any of that information, Jeff.
All right, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commander Waite. Thank you, Commander Yada.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. We hope we can invite you back again for further discussion and to answer all of our questions. Our next, yes, the next guest speaker that we have this evening is Tammy, and I know I'm going to get her last name wrong. Walder, is it? I know I wrote it down. Yes, yes, Tammy. Shows where my brain is this evening. She will actually be stepping in for Glenn St. Onge with the LEAD program. So Kelly, I don't know if you can give her access to join our panel.
Certainly.
She was kind enough to step in literally at noon today when we saw there was a conflict of schedules.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Hey, hi. I'm just wondering if Martisa Billy, if you could introduce yourself, please.
Yes.
I think we've met.
Yes, I apologize.
Hello, everybody. I'm Martisa Billy, and I'm the new office assistant for the CPOA.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
She's our assistant. She's very well qualified. She
Great.
has an associate, bachelor's, and master's recently in criminal justice, and is passionate about the field, and has worked for the government in the Navajo Nation for a few years, and is looking to bring some excellent things to the CPC.
Welcome aboard.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
That's great. And Ms. Billy, would you like to say anything else before we move on? You're welcome to.
Not at the moment, just learning, listening right now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're muted.
You're on
Suzy.
mute, Suzy.
Sorry. Thank you. Ms. Walden, who is with the county with Behavioral Health Initiative, if I remember correctly, and is involved with the LEAD program. So she's here to walk us through what that's going to look like and how it will hopefully, and we're keeping our fingers crossed and being positive, how it's going to have a positive impact on our community. Thank you, Tamara.
Sure. Thank you, Suzy. I do have some slides. If I'm able to share, I'd love to share slides with you. Great, thanks.
Go right ahead.
All right, so thank you all for inviting me to be here to explain the Albuquerque LEAD program to you. The program is a collaborative program with Bernalillo County Department of Behavioral Health Services and the City of Albuquerque, Albuquerque Police Department, Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department.
Not seeing anything shared on the screen.
Oh, you're not seeing anything. Okay, thank you. Get you. Screen one, share. Sorry about that.
Yay.
Get me over here. There we go. So to continue, are you able to see this now, the presentation?
Now it's good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The LEAD program partners, so the Law Office of the Public Defender, as well as the Second Judicial District Attorney's Office. So those are the partners for the program. And the LEAD program stands for Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion. It is a public safety program where police officers make the discretionary, have the discretionary authority to divert individuals that are suspected of low-level nonviolent crimes that may have unmet behavioral health needs or substance use or abuse issues instead of arrest, jail, and prosecution. We have also expanded our program to include social referrals, so it does not have to be a diversion referral, but it can also be a social referral as well. This is a national evidence-based program. And these goals, 6 goals, were developed by the National Support Bureau. The first goal, obviously, reorient the government's response to safety, disorder, and health-related problems, to improve the public safety and public health, reduce the number of people entering the criminal justice system for low-level offenses, undo the racial disparities within the criminal justice system, and sustain the funding for alternative interventions. And this is a big one for the LEAD program. It is currently being proven, and we do have statistics to show that it is a very effective program to save funding, and agencies have been able to recapture those funds and reinvest into their systems. And then the last goal, of course, is to strengthen the relationship between law enforcement and the community, which is very germane to this group. As you all know, the individuals and the community are suffering, which was the driving force for this program to be developed. There are about 21 states in the nation that are delivering this program to their communities and their jurisdictions. As you all may know, the Santa Fe brought the LEAD program, I believe it was in 2010-ish, around that time frame. And they have been operating their LEAD program. And the program itself, the first LEAD program rolled out in Seattle. And so that's kind of the history of where it was developed. These are just some statistics about the history behind the need for the program. Where obviously we have too many people in the criminal justice system for drug-related offenses. We're trying to decrease the amount of people who are in the criminal justice system, trying to find alternative solutions, and trying to help people who have either mental health, substance use, or substance abuse issues that are unmet. And that last statistic is really the behavioral health department focus. Only 19% of the population needing treatment are receiving treatment. So we really want to work on that. These are the partners that I mentioned going first when I first started the presentation. So these are the partners that are involved in our county and city program. As I said, our lead program is really focused on the reduction in costs to the system. So they've been able to demonstrate that it literally costs about half the amount of money for a client to be involved in the lead program and receive services and work toward harm reduction as it does for them to be in the criminal justice system. So these are just kind of numbers that have been generated from other programs that have been in operation for quite some time. Our county program was implemented in 2019, in April of 2019. So it was only underway for about a year when COVID struck. And so we did have a real impact, or COVID did have a real impact on our program. We saw far fewer referrals in the program over the last year. Thankfully, things are picking up a lot here recently. So again, we have the traditional law enforcement assisted diversion program. We are working on expanding our program to include the community referrals, and as well as the law enforcement social contact referrals, which the law enforcement social contact referrals are those that law enforcement officers have come into contact with perhaps the same individuals repeatedly, and they may determine that that person would be a good candidate for the lead program, even though they don't have a current arrest pending. So those are the three types of referrals we're looking to receive for this program. This just kind of gives you an idea of the types of diversions that are occurring through the program. As you can see, the majority of them are possession of illegal substances. So this is kind of, again, the focus of the program, trying to keep these people from entering the criminal justice system because they keep re-entering once they get into the system. So we all know that that's kind of the conundrum. The services that we provide once a referral has been made, we have case managers who do an intake, and they assess the needs of the client or the individual, and they develop an individualized intervention plan. And that plan addresses and assesses the needs for services. And so then the case manager actively connects those folks to these different services. And the list of services can go on and on, but this is just kind of a brief list of the types of things that we're seeing folks are needing. Many times, as you all know, if people don't have their basic physiological needs met, like shelter, food, and housing, they're not able to address the larger problems that they might be having, such as homelessness, joblessness, substance abuse, and mental health services. So those are the types of things that we're looking to connect them with. And then our program progress so far, we have received 104 referrals to date. We have 10 active cases. We have 10 referrals that are pending right now. We've had a very busy month of May. And we are working diligently with Albuquerque Police Department and BCSO to conduct officer trainings and to do outreach activities. So we have case managers and a program manager, Glenn, who was going to speak with you this evening. Glenn is our program manager who is working hard to go out into the community working with the PRT teams, doing, walking the streets with officers, doing the Friday outreach downtown, neighborhoods association, working with those folks, trying to do just community outreach to get the word out about the program, to try to identify the individuals who could be referred. We're working to collaborate with the community agencies so that we can begin social referrals from the community partners. This would be anybody, we were just speaking with Suzy earlier today about Endorphin Power Company, possibly being a referral source. It could be a homeless shelter. It could be another substance abuse treatment center or operation of any kind of social work agency could be making referrals of clients to this program. So just to kind of give you an idea of what that process looks like with the referral. So once an officer comes into contact with an individual, so say for example, they are in possession of an illegal substance. As long as the officer believes that they would be a good candidate for this program, they have specific criteria that they're looking for. It's again, low level, nonviolent crimes. And they would determine whether this person met the criteria for the program. They would ask the person if they were looking to receive help. They would fill out a referral form. They would do all the paperwork on their end that their agency requires. And they would send that referral form to our case manager. They could also bring the individual to the CARE campus, which was previously known as MATS. It is the Department of Behavioral Health Services Detox Campus, which is at 5901 Zuni. So at any time of day or night, officers can actually bring folks to the campus for an intake and to meet with a caseworker. So if the caseworker is not working, so for example, if it's during the night, they can bring the individual with the referral form, drop off the individual. They can spend the night at the CARE campus and meet with the caseworker in the morning. And then the intake can be conducted and then the assessment with the case manager conducted. So that's kind of how the program works. And obviously our goals I think are in keeping with the goals of this group as well. We're trying to improve the relationships between law enforcement and the community. We're trying to reduce harm to both the individuals who are experiencing these issues, as well as the harm that is being experienced by the community as a result of their criminal behavior. So that is all, I believe that's all. Yeah, that's all I have for you. And I'm happy to take questions if you have questions.
Do we have any questions from the council?
I just have one question, Tamara. In your personal opinion, what do you think would be the quickest and most effective way we could cut down on recidivism in the county? If there was just one thing we could vote on, one thing the police or the court system could do specifically, what would that be?
To reduce recidivism, that's the question? Well, yeah. This program is aimed to do exactly that. And I do believe that, if we could educate the community on trying to treat individuals rather than criminalize them for the issues that they're having, I think that's truly the key. I think probably everybody on this call knows that that's the goal of many of the programs, but specifically this program. And I think that we just have some work to do. It's just educating the community, educating our partners, getting folks to make those referrals.
Tamara, I missed something. I blanked out someplace or something. Where are these treatments conducted? How are people helped, and in what organizations take on the responsibilities for doing treatments, especially like in the area of addiction?
So yes, very good question. These services are provided by community partners. So what we do is assess the need. If there's a need for detox services, obviously our campus offers that. Those folks can stay at our campus to detox. We do have some longer term care services. We have a supportive aftercare community. So if they needed additional help beyond our normal 3 to 10 day detox services, they could stay on our campus if they qualify for those services. But there are many other services in the community, mental health, substance abuse, inpatient, outpatient, behavioral health, all kinds of different providers in the community. And we actually contract a lot of those services through our department with those community providers. So that's what we're doing, is making those connections for those people to the right services.
Thank you.
So Tammy, one of the questions that I meant to ask earlier, and it just popped in, reminded myself, was, so people are driving down Zuni or driving down Gibson, Central, wherever, they see somebody that is passed out on the side of the road or walking in the middle of the intersection, that we might look at as having a mental health crisis episode, and they call 242 cops or 911. Is that a candidate for your program? Because APD is going out to that call. Do they have to be actively breaking a law by breaking into somebody's car or their house? What is that going to look like?
Very good question. And yes is the answer. The answer is that's a perfect example of a candidate for the program. And once the officer were to respond to that incident, even if they weren't breaking a law or committing a crime, the law officer can make a referral. That's the social referral that the law officer they have a referral form. Both law enforcement agencies have this referral form in their systems. And so the law officer would just bring up that referral form, fill it out. They could take the client to our campus, or they could call us if it's during the day. Our case manager will go out to the scene and they'll do an intake on the scene if the client is, of course, mentally stable and able to do that at the time. The case managers are intended to be field-based case managers. So they're going to be out there on the streets trying to locate people. We know that most of the clients that are going to be in this program are homeless or precariously housed. So that's the goal, is for our case managers to go out there and meet the client where they're at.
Thank you.
Curious, Tamara, Archie, being a veteran and working at the VA, always have veterans close at heart. What type of, not extra steps, but any steps to ensure a warm handoff? Because this is all the services that are provided at the VA. Fortunate for qualified veterans. In your experience of the 100 and however many you had on the caseload, any idea how many of those were veterans, and how did the case management work for them?
That's an excellent question. And I can honestly say that we're not collecting veteran information, so we don't know if they're veterans, but we will definitely, now that you bring that up, we will definitely start collecting that information. But the question about whether it's a warm handoff and how we would handle that situation, if it were a situation where a client were in need of veteran services, our case manager could take the client to the VA hospital or wherever the services are being provided. The case manager is intended to be actively involved in making warm handoffs and transporting the client and doing whatever they can to get the client to those appointments and to those services. And we've just received an additional grant to provide cell phones for our lead clients. So a lot of times that's kind of a barrier for them to receive services, is they can't connect because they don't have a phone to make appointments or to call We provide bus passes, so we do have transportation available to them in addition to our case managers providing transportation. So we do make every attempt to make that warm handoff. So good question. And we'll start tracking better.
Thank you, because like I said, I work at homeless, and there's just so many programs that we have, emergency housing. We can put them up, and Goodwill all the partners, like you mentioned, the community partners. I mean, they're for veterans specifically. So I'm looking forward to seeing those as they come in, or however. I appreciate what you're doing.
Hey, Jeff.
Yes, thank you.
Jeff, real quick, I got a phone call from one of somebody who obviously works in that department with you in reference to homeless and going out and feeding the homeless because they're part of the VA. I have a sticky on my desk with his name. He wanted to take part in our weekly, go out and identify unsheltered and feed them and stuff like that. I can't remember his name, but it's always good to have numbers so that I could give my officers, especially if they do identify, somebody who's a veteran. We can make a phone call and maybe you guys could come out and pick them up, or even offer them a resource or give them a number that they can contact.
If I have to, I will. Yeah, it sounds like one of our peer support specialists, Chino, or one of our peers, but I can share that information with you, Commander.
So I see a couple of questions in the chat box, and I'll go ahead and try to answer those for you all.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Ms. Walden. Chairman, Madam Chair, we are running low on time. We still have an hour of business to get to. I'm wondering if we could ask Ms. Walden to answer questions via the chat for those which remain. If you're okay with that, Ms. Walden, are you willing to do that?
Of course, I'll do that.
And Madam Chair, are you okay with that as well?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry to cut you guys short. We have a full schedule for the next hour as well, and we finish up at 8 o'clock. If you have more questions, please hold tight. We're going to have hopefully at least 10 minutes at the end of the meeting for public comment, and we welcome you to ask more questions at that point. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right. Those are two very, very thorough and informative speakers that we had this evening. So I hope that everybody from the community and from the panel took away lots of good information and probably questions as well. Let's see, next on the agenda is the determination of quorum, which there are currently 4 members, and all 4 of us are here. So we do in fact have a quorum. So we're good. I want to review and approve or amend the agenda. Do we have any changes that we need to make, or is everybody good to move forward with it as is? If so, could I get a motion for that?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
In a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ron. And the February minutes. I mean, not February. I don't know why I'm at February in my brain. It's April, right?
We have the April minutes, correct, okay. Madam Chair.
All right,
and,
sorry.
Yeah, would you like me to take that?
That would be great.
Thank you. So we do have a number of changes to the April minutes, and Kelly and I had a meeting this week and talked about the minutes. All of the council members should have received the April minutes in your inbox this afternoon. I will pull it up just briefly on the screen share so that for the sake of transparency, and so that everyone can see this, I think. There we are. I don't think we need to go through every detail of the changes, but just so you can see they're here in yellow. Kelly and I have gone through these. Again, the members have received them, and it's all pretty straightforward stuff. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. The cat that's screaming because it's his dinner time. All right. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes as Madam Vice Chair has made changes to?
Archie motions.
In a second.
I'll
Second,
second. Thank you.
Oh, the kitty just second.
He's a very hungry 17-pound cat, so he may end up here on my lap here in a minute, eating my arm. Oh, there he is. Okay, get down, dude. Let's see, the next item that we have is, let's see. Get down, dude. Let's see. I just wanted to update people on the status of, obviously, we are now down to 4 members, as former member Valdez has chosen to run for public office, which is exciting for him, but as such cannot serve on the council. So he's has to step aside here for a bit.
and we have a formal resignation from.
I have requested that. He and I have chatted back and forth about it. He understands that he cannot do both at the same time. I have not checked my email since later this afternoon when I emailed him. I did see that he was on the chat. So yes, he is aware that he cannot serve on the council. So are you bringing that up as a matter of our quorum?
The concern I have is that there is no request for a leave of absence.
Right, and he's right. He's aware of that. We've talked with Kelly about that. I've talked to Kathleen about it, and we've spoken with Andres about it. So he is aware that that's not an option, that he will have to resign his position.
Yes,
Yes.
but we don't have a resignation yet.
I did not. I can check my email here if you want me to check it, but as of like about 4:30 this afternoon, I did not, unless he's emailed it since then.
I believe Andres did send a resignation last week. I'll get that back out if somebody did not get it.
I did not see that.
Okay.
Thank you, Kelly. So in having said that, then you all have all of the applications that Kelly has sent that have gone out to all of us to review. I know that Kathleen sent out an email saying that we were going to start scheduling as of June 2nd. Does that sound right off the top of my head? Oh, go ahead. Is that right? Second.
That's
Okay.
my understanding.
Yes. I know that Kathleen would as well like to do in-person interviews. I don't know how the rest of the council feels about that. I don't know how, we'll have to obviously look at venues to see what's open, those sorts of things. Clearly, if it's something the candidate isn't comfortable doing in person, no harm, no foul. We still move forward with that applicant. We're not going to discriminate against them because they're, not comfortable doing that for whatever reason. I would like to see us bring on no more than 3 members at a time. As you all know, and as I'm learning, the learning curve to be on the council is very steep. So we want to make sure that there's some onboarding for them and some education, lots of reading, clearly. And we want to make sure that they feel comfortable and knowledgeable sitting on the council. I don't know if anybody has comment or discussion that they want about that. Yes, Kathleen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just suggest that to the other members, Mr. Archuleta, Mr. Hopkowaks, if you have preferences as to whether we do this live or on Zoom, please contact the chair or myself, and we will do our best to honor everyone's preferences going forward. And back to you, Madam Chair.
And I forwarded some comments to Suzy this afternoon, our chair, and I think we should, and she can share those with everyone on the council. How we do face-to-face interviews in person, and where we could do that and that sort of thing, with the understanding of vaccinations and protections and things like that.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Won't do any good if we all get sick. We won't be able to have meetings. And I know that at some point we would love to either start with a hybrid meeting, or, you know, certainly at some point, hopefully over the summer when we're completely open, start doing in-person meetings, because those were certainly meaningful to see people face to face. And yeah, I thought I enjoyed the face-to-face meetings. So I don't know if anybody else.
Are you guys saying you miss me?
No, I see your face plenty, but I'm sure other people do. I'm sure other people do. Does anybody have any questions, concern, or want to discuss it more? Okay. So currently our roster is at 4. Kelly, how do we want to do that since we don't officially have a resignation?
Currently, our roster is at 5. We will work on the
Okay.
resignation issue and the other
Okay.
issue next week. Okay.
Okay, cool. Then we will start. I'll start making phone calls next week. One of the things that I wanted to ask about, and Kathleen and I talked a little bit about it, is we kind of blocked Tuesdays and Thursdays, if I remember right. That's what I get for going back and forth between working at work and working at home. And I wanted to know how you all felt about, since we do have so many seats open right now, anyhow, is if somebody is available, even if they're third in line when we make our phone calls, and I'm trying to fill in my slots when to do our interviews. And the second person says, I can't do the first day, but I can do the second day. How do you all feel about that, Ron?
Yeah, and before you do that, that's fine with me. We have a couple of people that, well, we had actually 6 applicants from earlier last year that we never had a chance to interview. And as I understand, you've been in contact with them all, and
Right.
a couple at least indicated they would still be interested. They're
Yes.
being included in this interview process, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, they are. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So everybody's okay if we've got our little matrix of when we can do interviews and fill in people when it fits their schedule. Everybody's good with that?
Sure, and it's like, I mean, if we do the Zoom, it'd be a lot quicker than trying to arrange everybody to do in person. That's just my opine on that. I mean, it's a lot quicker with the Zooms and setting them up, and especially of other conflicting schedules. So I'm more of the mind to do them on Zoom for now.
Okay, I will make note of that. Cool. All right, then we'll move on to our next item, which is 9, which is the proposed changes to the Council of Chairs guidelines that I know were previously submitted. And I know that Kathleen, you want to talk a little bit about that?
I do. Before we go on, may I just discuss for another 30 seconds or so our quorum, or excuse me, our membership on the council, please, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. I want to say a big thank you to member Andres Valdez, who has been with us for a few years. I want to thank him for his service. I believe he might be on the call tonight, and publicly say that we very much appreciate his service to this council. And Mr. Valdez, we look forward to having you back with us. Should that time come sooner or later, we wish you the very best with your run for city council. And again, we're just very, very appreciative for your input. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so the next item, yes, this will be very quick. Those two items which we have brought up over the past few meetings are still being sort of bandied about with the Council of Chairs, myself, with our chairwoman, Suzy Sanchez Beg. We are still looking at these items. One is, what is the, how much mandate does the Council of Chairs have over the individual councils? That is of primary concern at the Southeast Area Community Policing Council. In addition to that, the second item was how does the Council of Chairs handle recommendations that come up from the City Council? So the first item is still in play. That's still being discussed about at higher levels. The second item regarding recommendations from the City Council, I am tabling that personally because it appears to me that the Council of Chairs has that under control. They are making good decisions around that item, so that I think we can put that one to rest unless someone else wants to bring it back up for discussion. And with that, I close. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Under new business this evening, we touched a little bit on reopening for live meetings. Obviously, that's going to be at the behest of the governor and the availability of the community center, which we will reach out and see what they have to say, and we'll continue to follow the reopening. I don't know, Kelly, if doing some sort of hybrid format is doable or not. Yeah, I guess that's something we can do some research on, because I am not a techie person.
We spoke with Eric, and it's going to be difficult. And additionally, it will probably kill our local attendance if it's broadcast. That's my own personal opinion. But,
okay. Yeah. All right, we'll see how it goes and keep moving forward. Yes, Kathleen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Mr. Mensah, what do you know as far as when we might be having live meetings? Is there anything you can share with us when that goal might be, or how that's looking for the immediate future?
I have not heard anything personally. I know that the city is opening up facilities as we talk. I will probably be going back to the office within a month. So I would say a month's notice, maybe in August would be, July, maybe August would be the best thing, in which we tell people in advance this is happening and we make sure they realize it.
Thank you.
Awesome. That would be great to start doing that again. Let's see. I know that that Kathleen put in the chat our new city email addresses, which we're using now, right? Yes. Okay. So ours is southeastcpc@cabq.gov. So you can reach out to us directly that way. I promise I will check regularly, and we will get back to you as quickly as we can, or we'll reroute you, or we'll send you to the commander and he can take care of it. Yeah, we'll all work together to take care of whatever we can do to help with that.
And if anyone didn't catch that, it's at the top of this evening's chat. You can find our email address there.
Yes, thank you. And I know that Kathleen, you wanted to talk a little bit about the newsletter request.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We, for our CPC members, Mr. Mensa has received a message from others at the other higher ups, let's say, and we've been requested to do a newsletter for our policing council if possible. I personally do not have the time to do a monthly newsletter. They're asking for something, it could be as short as 1 page. So I just throw it out there, particularly for members Archuleta and Hopkawaks. If you are interested in doing a 1-page monthly newsletter, there is the request for that. And if you could please contact the chair or myself or Mr. Mensa or all three of us, if you're interested, that would be a great help. Thank you.
Maybe one of our new members will want to take that on.
Yeah, perhaps.
I know I follow in Ron's footsteps and do a small blibbit in the commander's newsletter, and I have to be reminded like well in advance to do that. So yeah, taking on a full-on newsletter would not be a good thing. So.
Well, welcome to my world, Suzy.
I know. And then Kathleen, did you want to speak to the addition of questions that were requested to be added onto the application?
I'm happy to do that, Madam Chair. Thank you. So I'm going to screen share again. Let's see if I can pull this off. Bear with me, 15 seconds. So here are 2 questions. These were brought to us by member who will soon be a former member, Andres Valdez. These are questions that a member Valdez has is proposing that we have added to the e-application on the CABQ website for the policing councils. And I just want to say that I think that this is really fantastic that he came up with these questions. I think they're really would be very beneficial to us for a couple of reasons. Let me give just 10 seconds, 15 seconds to let everyone read these before I go on. So these are fantastic questions for a couple of reasons. You all heard that the commander who spoke to us first thing at this meeting tonight talked about the agreement with the U.S. Department of Justice, the CASA, and all of that falls under the Civil Rights Division of the U.S. Department of Justice. And essentially, our reason for being here is for civil and human rights. And I think that what Mr. Valdez has done here is sort of spotlighted that for us from the get-go, from the beginning, so that prospective members of the council, their attention is brought to the fact that this is about human and civil rights. And so A, it focuses their attention on that. And B, it also makes it so that prospective applicants or applicants' prospective members see that, yes, there is this CASA, and it gives them the impetus, hopefully, to read up on the CASA so that they understand what they're applying to, what it is that they're going to be asked to do, what the focus is and should be. And so, again, I think these are great questions. I would like to have a vote tonight on these. So I'll go ahead and make a motion that I move that these two new questions be placed on the official application for the community policing councils.
So quick question, is that something that would apply only to the Southeast area, or isn't the application one single application? Is that something, Kelly, that all of the groups would have to agree
Yes,
to, or?
we do have one application for all 6 councils.
Okay,
That would probably be a council of chairs issues if it's ratified here. But then in your own application process, you can always ask these questions in the meantime during the interview.
okay, that was,
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mensa. We want these questions put on the application for the Southeast Area Community Policing Council for the purpose of preparing applicants for what they are getting into. So we
Right.
want them to know in advance, we want these questions to be given to them in advance of their, of an interview, which may happen. And so, yeah, so I think that answers that.
Right. I would have no problem putting the questions on. I think they're fine. But that would be a ratification issue, I believe, amongst all the councils.
And is that in the guidelines of the council? Mr. Mensa?
I would have to check on exactly how that would work.
Yeah,
The
I don't think that it's there.
Okay.
The application that's on the website applies to all policing councils. But one of the things that can happen prior to the interview scheduled, the chair can send a couple of questions like this to the applicants, so they have a chance to think about this and not be surprised by it when they walk in the room and all of a sudden they're asked these questions that they haven't had a chance to review the CASA or anything like that. So I think an advance notice from the chair before the interview would be the thing that we do immediately. Changing the application online on the website, it applies to all areas of the city. I mean, the Southwest Council, the Northwest Council has many of the same questions that we do. And so this would apply to all of the councils.
And if you would like to send these questions or have me send them to the other chairs, that would be perfectly fine with me.
So we don't have any kind of system whereby this has to go through the Council of Chairs, which brings us back to the issue that we've had repeatedly, which is how much autonomy do the councils still have, like we have had in the past, to make decisions like this?
Yeah, I understand. I understand your thought process, Ms. Burke, but changing the application on the responsibility of one council without running it by the other councils, the universal application that goes to all 6 might lead to issues.
Okay, well, I understand. Thank you. I like former Chairman Hobgawak's idea that we immediately implement these questions because, and of course, we'll take a vote. But I think that there seems to be broad support for these questions. And as long as we can start it here at home where we want it, I'm happy. I think Mr. Valdez would be very happy as well. And we'll send it to the Council of Chairs.
yeah, I agree. We definitely want to start it as part of our process here in the Southeast.
So can we?
Please.
Can we amend the motion somehow?
I believe so. I believe we could. I'm happy to do that. So I withdraw my former, or I amend my former motion to say that beginning immediately, we present these 2 questions to applicants prior to their interview. And in addition, we send these 2 questions to the Council of Chairs for their consideration for the universal application on the website.
I'll second the new amendment, the new motion.
Thank you, Chairman Hopkowicz.
Motion moves.
We need to take a vote, Madam Chair.
Oh, yes, yep, we do. So Archie, are you on? Yes, I see his hand. All right, so we'll just show of hands who, excuse me, who votes yes to move this forward. All right. Archie's hand's up, so that's all 4 of us are moving this forward to include this as part of our process.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Valdez. Thank you, everyone.
Let's hope that all of the other councils will try to incorporate this in their process. I think it's good. And I'm looking to make sure I didn't miss anything on our agenda. I know the commander is waiting very patiently to do his report. Without further ado.
Yeah, with Madam Chair, we did have, I believe on the agenda that I would give an update on an old recommendation that went to APD. Let's have a look. I believe it's here. So item number 9.
Oh, yes.
Correct. Okay. May I?
Yes, please.
Thank you. So to the council, you are all, I believe, familiar with the recommendation that was submitted in 2019, I believe. We had a unanimous vote, sent that to APD. It then was returned to us 7 months later with the intentions that it would be instated at APD. Very wonderful, thorough job from, help me out, Commander Yara, Leger, no, not Leger.
Legendre?
Legendry? Roger Legendry, maybe?
So here I have it written down, almost.
Leonard Nerbetsky?
You have to go run through all the L's, sorry, Languet.
Oh, Lieutenant Luke Languet, yes.
Yes, thank you. So Commander Languet did a great job with it. I reached out to him. He is no longer in charge of that. It's been moved over to Vice. Vice has not had much time yet to get back to me. I expect a response from them soon, and I'll be in touch with the council members as to what Vice has to say about the status of that recommendation, because I know that Chairman Hopkowicz has asked me for that in the past. Thank you, Chairman. And Chairman Sanchez Beg has asked me for that in the past. So finally it's moving forward, and I hope to have something firm for you within a week. Thank you. And again, if anyone in the community tonight wants to put forth a recommendation, please contact us. We are very happy to do that with you. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, Commander, thank you for waiting so patiently.
No problem. So on our report, just based on crimes against persons, we've had, and these dates are from April 15th through May 18th. Aggravated assaults and batteries, 107. Robberies, 28. One thing about our robberies, we think we've identified a group that is responsible for anywhere from 6 to 8 on hotels, motels, and a couple of our smaller restaurants like Subways, things of that nature. As far as property crimes, auto theft is up. Obviously, you saw in the newsletter, I usually put a commander's safety chip. That's usually because I start seeing increases, and I need you guys to put the word out for the public to help me not be a victim, to protect your property. Use, like I said, use steering wheel locks, brake locks. So if you see that on the newsletter, that's for a reason. I'm seeing something, and I'm reaching out to you guys, providing you guys with an educational portion in that newsletter. So auto thefts 96, auto burglaries 99, commercial burglaries 24, which is good. Residential burglaries 36, other disorderly conduct 40, drug violations 29, and then weapons violations 40. As far as calls for service from April 1st through April 30th, we were able to take over 9,678 calls for service. 5 community meetings via Zoom, 3 step pet inspections for homes and businesses. And then when it comes to the use of force stats from April 1st through April 30th, we had a total of 19. Level 5s we had, or sorry, there's no level 5. There's level 1s we had 5, level 2 we had 10, and then level 3s we had 4. And Suzy has a copy of this report to share with the board.
I believe
Any
I
questions?
sent. I have questions.
You're only afforded 1, Suzy.
Well, I'm gonna do 2, so. So what technically is a weapons violation?
Anything with, it could be a bat, firearm, a knife, a board. So anything's considered a weapons violation when it comes to they arm themselves with something.
Okay, that makes
And
sense.
I have a question, Commander. I saw an announcement about gun buyback with gift cards and things like that. Is that
Yes.
currently ongoing?
Yeah, so the gun buyback is actually this Saturday at the the evidence lab located off of 2nd and Montaño. I don't know the times off the top of my head. But it starts in the morning and it runs throughout the afternoon. I don't know what as far as gift cards and stuff, all the money's either provided by the city or the city council for that buyback.
And that lab, 2nd Montaño, that's right around the corner down at the command center down south in the area down there, and the police academy, right?
Yes, Valley Substation where the police academy is.
Yeah.
Good question. Okay, and then my second question is that the use of force stats went up, and can you address that?
As far as the use of force stats, and what do you mean, just as far as the total number?
Well, and I'm not sure everybody knows what the levels are either.
Okay, so as far as the total, I mean, obviously COVID is lifted. We're seeing more people out and about. It was pretty quiet there for the year and a half that we were there. So, I mean, I'm assuming people are out, they're able to go out and, barbecues, go to restaurants, more places are open. I'm not saying it's all reference alcohol or drugs, but it's just more people are out and about, and more incidents are going to occur. As far as level 1s, I think somebody asked in the chat, levels are related to degree of importance. So level 1s are minor. It goes from level 1 being our most minor to level 3. A level 1 can be resisted handcuffing. We tell a subject, put his arms behind his back, he's being arrested or going to be detained. And he starts putting up a little bit of fight. Officers have to use a little bit of their own strength to place him in handcuffs. That would be a level 1. Also a show of force if we point the firearm at him, or even an ECW, which is a taser. We point them, we document that too as a level 1. A level 2 can be actual tasing, or say a beanbag or a 40 mil. A 40 mil is similar to a beanbag. Level 3, as far as the 4s, that could be somebody's in handcuffs, they're still putting up a fight, and they're in handcuffs, and officers actually have to take them down, or there's some serious injury involved. Officer involved shootings are obviously level 3s. Did that answer the question?
Yes.
Suzy, I know.
Yes, and then all these are reviewed, all the camera footage is reviewed, is that correct?
Yes, so I handle at my level all level 1s when it comes to my area command. Any level 1 that my officers complete, I have to review those. Level 2s and 3s go to Internal Affairs Force Division. When it comes to reviewing videos, we do have a video review unit, but we still have to review them to ensure that we're documenting and ensuring that we're sending off any sort of misconduct complaints to IA, Internal Affairs Professional Standards. Right now, I have a use of force level 1, which they just showed for us, a guy who was popping off rounds. As officers were approaching, he popped off a round right in front of officers. They drew their rifles, pointed at him. 3 officers were involved in a show of force, which is the level 1. And I believe there was like probably over 8 to 9 hours worth of video on that one incident. So it takes up quite a bit of a time to review it. And that includes all paperwork and wording that the officers are using. They can't use boilerplate, so it takes up some time.
And then my last question, since you brought up the popping off rounds, is all of us that live, here, hear them at night, hear them during the day, more at night, certainly. So what happens when we hear that? Do we call 242 cops? Do we report it on the app? Like, what's the protocol as a community? And then what is APD doing about it? I mean, I know that EPC has a shot spotter on top of our building, but I don't know how many there are, where they are.
So I can't really share with you the boundary of where it's at. It's obviously a resource for us. You're in the area, Suzy. if there's a beacon there, you're probably in the area. But when it comes to reporting it, obviously, if you think it's necessary to report, sometimes we get a ton of them in our area command, and they're just, and some of them aren't even reported. We document them through ShotSpotter. If somebody calls in, the 10 code is actually a 39.3, and we'll send officers out, respond there. Another thing that we also do is if it's within the ShotSpotter area, those are priority 2s. Priority 1 is obviously our higher response code. Priority 2 is second. So we send officers out there. We obviously try to identify where they're coming from with ShotSpotter, or even just neighbors or witnesses. We also ensure that we collect evidence. So a casing, we utilize that and enter it into our NIBIN's profile system, which is just part of evidence. We take the marking off of the ballistic, and then we save it, and we hopefully will end up being able to match it up with a crime scene later on, and we can put both scenes together. You're on mute.
Oh, I thought Ron had a question. That was all I had for my questions. I'm looking in the chat. Were you going to read the questions in the chat, Ron?
No, there was a question about this, if there's fewer than 300 pages to review, and I just spent out a chat response to that with the executive summaries. That can lead someone into the CASA in depth.
And Jessica, I hope I answered yours. The levels are related to obviously the level of force that the officers have to use, degree of importance, and I think I answered that. 1 is our lowest. Violence and level of, that's kind of a hard question. It doesn't really have to be violence. It's basically the level of resistance that the subject is utilizing, and we are trained to use the minimal amount of force necessary to obviously either to complete what we're trying to do, whether it's detaining them or placing them under arrest. I hope that answered you. I'm trying to go down these questions really quick. Yeah, the gun buyback 08 to 2 p.m. Ron answered that for you.
That's from 8 o'clock to 2 p.m. That answers a question from Catherine Turner also.
There's an official
the
resignation from Andres too in there.
Yeah, so Jessica also said, with the clarified, what were the numbers for levels 2 and 3? I don't understand that question. videos as in body cams. Yeah, OBRD. We also have to review if there's any sort of video surveillance from the community. We do our best to, if they're willing to give us that evidence, we have to review that video as well. And that's off of buildings or even cell phones, residential rings or whatnot. And then where is the gun buyback? I think somebody was asking me. It's down in the valley, 2nd and Montano at the evidence lab or the APD Valley substation. Then Martisa, do you think property and auto theft would increase as COVID restrictions getting lifted and people are going back to their offices? Possibly. There's a lot more traffic out and about, a lot more parking lots that vehicles are left alone, people leaving items in their car. When it comes to auto theft, they're not securing their vehicles properly. They don't think that it's necessary to put a brake lock or even a steering wheel lock on there. So, I mean, there's a lot of things going on with that. It's just, I ask you all to help me. That steering wheel lock and that brake lock are really important to me. And obviously in the wintertime, don't do warm-ups because you'll be waving at your car as it drives off. Is it legal to shoot a gun on your property in the urban city? Yes, it is. Catherine Turner, is it illegal to shoot a gun on your property in the urban city limits? Yes. Let me see here. I'm just trying to go through all of them, sorry. So the 15 use of force, is that for over 9,000 calls for service? Yes, it is. And Vicky, we average, that's kind of low for us. We average anywhere from 10,000 to 11,500 a month. Hope I answered your question.
That was good. Thank you.
Any other questions for me? And again, if you don't have time to answer, you guys are always more than welcome to reach me at the Southeast substation so I can answer your questions.
Thank you, Commander. Great work.
Thank you, Commander. So that takes us to the point where we have time for public comment and question. We don't have too much time, but we do have a little bit of time. So I guess, Kelly, did you see anything come through in the chat that we haven't addressed that we should address?
I did see something. Vice Chair Kathleen Burke here. I believe there was a question about the process that we go through with applicants. So we take applicants via the CPC CABQ website, and we take them in order that they're received. We typically would interview applicants live. Of course, now we're interviewing applicants via Zoom. And those are done in closed meetings. This is to get to the heart of your question. We, the council, have a private session with the applicants where we answer their concerns, we ask them questions, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's a vote taken and they are either brought on to the council or not. Thank you for your question.
Trying to look through these, see.
I don't know if if that's an official resignation on the chat from Andres. We went back and forth with that. I think he resigned on the chat. If anybody else seen it.
Yeah, he can, yeah, I'll have him send me something formally. Thank you. Thank you, Andres.
So for those of you from the public who are still with us, this is the time in which we take your questions. If you have any questions for us, for anyone who's still here with you, we're happy to take your questions. We have 10 minutes, so feel free to put it in the chat. We can bring you on live if you'd like to ask us live.
Not seeing any questions at the moment.
Okay.
Well, in that case, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
Thank you all, council. Thank you, members of the community. Thank you, Commander, Kelly, Martisa. My cat will be happy. I'll go feed him now.
Thank you, team. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Have a good evening, everybody.
Have an excellent evening. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Martisa.